used to live in Baldwinville as a kid. Is he a twin?
Okay, we're now streaming on YouTube. Okay, so I'd like to welcome everybody to this Zoom meeting. We're fortunate enough to have 6 members from the Community Preservation Committee and some guests here today. The agenda has been posted. Now, the first item is about the minutes, but probably because it's the first of the fiscal year, we should do the reorganization of the committee. And then the chairperson can run the meeting. So we need a clerk, a vice chair, and a chairperson, and we're wondering if there's any volunteers. Dennis, for clerk?
Yeah, just remember, I'm not a secretary. I'll do the best I can.
You're doing a great job.
Well, where'd Joanne go? We could vote her in on it if she's gone.
No, thank you.
Oh, she's still there. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to be chairperson again.
Yay.
Second that.
Yay.
And I think, Carrie, you're vice chair now, aren't you?
I have been, yes.
Are you willing to retain that role?
I'm willing unless, somebody else would love to do it.
Anybody
No.
want
Yay, Carrie. Yay.
Brad's not jumping in on it. Okay, so we can accept the nomination of that slate.
I'll make a motion that we accept the slate as it was noted.
Okay,
John as chairman, Carrie as vice chair. Who else? Myself, I guess, as
with that one. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Good heavens, no.
Hearing none. So we're gonna have to poll people for the vote because we've got multiple people at locations. So I'm gonna go right around, starting with right there. That's Brad. Brad, so we're gonna take a vote on the slate. Brad?
Yes.
Dennis?
yes.
Joy?
Yes,
Joanne?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes too. So it's unanimous, 6-0. And that's how you appeared on my screen. That was no preferential. Okay, so Dennis sent us out 3 sets of minutes, and I don't know if everybody's had a chance to review them or not. We had an unofficial meeting on June 19th, but we can write these into the record. It's stated in the minutes that it's unofficial. And similarly, March 12th was the same case. And then February 13th was our last official meeting, I guess, which was pre-COVID.
I think that was it.
Now, do we have it? Has everybody had a chance to review or would like to review more, discuss the minutes of those 3 meetings?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to accept them as printed. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Brad. Any discussion? All those, and my dog is barking now, so she's wants to vote yes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Oops, I was supposed to do a polling. Okay, thank you very much. So one of the things that we do annually as well is we discuss providing with the chair with the ability to sign the vendor warrants prior to a meeting if the expenses are for a project that has been approved, et cetera. That expedites the process, and then reporting back to the members at the monthly meeting so that vendors don't need to wait. So it certainly makes things flow better, and I'm wondering if we could perhaps continue that practice this year.
I make a motion that we continue the practice as we've done in previous years.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Joy. Okay, so we have a motion made and seconded to enable the chair to sign the vendor warrants for CPC projects and then to return, the information back to the committee. Obviously, if there's something that's controversial, then I'm not going to just sign it without getting a vote. But if it's no risk, just to move it forward, I will. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll do the vote. Brad?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Joy?
Yes,
Joanne?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
And John says yes. I don't know if I'm allowed to or not, but okay, check. So since we have Bob and Scott here, we'll get to the Gilman Waite project pretty quickly. But if everybody noted, I actually changed I added more detail to the agenda. I've spoken to the town accountant and she has provided me with the balance information. And Dennis, I can email this to you if you want to include the figures in the minutes.
Okay, that would be good.
Yeah. So as you know, we have several open projects, and the accountant always, especially at the beginning of a fiscal year, likes to close projects that are done out. Our projects are not required to be finished in the year that they started, and as a result, they continue on. So I'm going to go through some of these projects, and then there's at least one I know that we can vote to close, and I'm glad Scott is here to talk about another. But in the general reserve accounts, which are unallocated funds, in other words, they're sitting there, haven't been voted on to a project. We had $53,360 in open space. The historic preservation has $61,080. The community housing fund had $205,851, and the general unbudgeted reserve has, and this is an estimate, she didn't have the hard number, but approximately 1.265 million, $1,265,000. So that represents approximately $1.5 million that are not spoken for, if you will. Now, the projects that are spoken for include the recent vote for the Stone Bridge project, which is $35,000, and that's still not been spent. We did a second pass on Scout Hall for $50,000, none of which has been spent. The Grange Hall has a couple open projects. One was $43,400, where they have spent $5,400. The Dwelly Farm has its new projects going on. They have a total of $62,400. We know we'll be getting an invoice for that soon as they've done the clearing there. And I know they've got a lot more work to follow on that.
Yep.
The Grange Hall has an open project of $19,000 from 2012. Now that might be one that we can close because I'm not sure exactly why that is still open.
I think part of that might be the back door and the ramp, which I don't believe has yet been started.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dennis. Now, that's the other thing I was going to bring up. I got an email from Brian and an invoice for the plans and the site meeting for doing the ramp. And that's, so we have a bill for $1,400 for that. And I believe that is out of that 9,000 and not out of that 43,000. Except the fact that we have another one that's 15,000, which I think was the additional monies we did. So we've got 3 different projects, and I've got to go back. One is from 2018, one is from 2012, and one is from 2019. So no, we know the 18 and the 19 are open. It's whether this 12 is needed. I think we should probably just sit tight with it and
I think the other 2 probably were for wiring and for the insulation project.
yeah, that's the newest one. The 2019 one includes that wiring and installation and stuff, and they're starting to work on the wiring now.
Oh, okay.
So we're not going to try to act on these at this point. The conservation fund, which is an ongoing, we voted as a town $15,000 into that. We have 8,000 remaining. We finally paid the second half of that payment to the school there, Conway School. So that balance is 8,000. That needs to stay. The Dwelly Farm project with the bridges has a $2,169 balance, and I believe we can close that out because I think Jassy indicated that is done, and we should. And I thought we had maybe even voted to close it once before.
I believe you're correct. That project has been done and is being used, and yes, we can close that out.
Okay, so I would like to entertain a motion to close that project out so we can let the accountant reallocate the funds back to their source.
I
I
so
make a-
move.
So moved by Joy and seconded by Carrie.
Sure.
Is that what I heard? Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion on that, closing that out and helping her at least clean one thing off the books?
No.
Hearing
Yep.
none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? No, so unanimous, 6-0. Okay, the next item is Elm Street, 4 Elm Street. Now that's where the residual money, the monies were going to be allocated for the Veterans Park. There remains a balance of $37,554 for that. Now, as we all know, and there's been discussion of moving the Veterans Park to Otter River and to come up with a comprehensive plan to, put the Veterans Park in conjunction with upgrades to Otter River Park, et cetera, et cetera. That has gotten interest by the select board. I know they've had an information session on it. Bob might want to say something about it. I don't know. But as far as the Veterans Park goes, I got an email from Amanda Suzo on the Concom asking, what's going to happen if that Veterans Park goes to Otter River? Who would be responsible for the remaining funds, and could they be used to improve the existing parcel at 4 Elm Street? And the answer is yes, they could be, because the original intent was to create open space, which we did by taking down that building. And then we could just make a simple park, as we had discussed in the past, with, kiosk and picnic tables. And then the question would be, where would that go forward through? Was that something, the selectmen kind of took that project, to remove the old building and to do the Veterans Park, but it's really going to land on Parks and Recreation, who's already responsible for it. So, but Amanda was asking if that was something open space and Concom could do. And I'm like, well, it can't be decided. Bob, would you weigh in? Do you have a feeling for that parcel and what you have to do, your department has to do to maintain it now?
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Good evening. All we're doing right now is just mowing and trimming, just simple keeping the vegetation down. I haven't been reached out to as far as what we could do with that. And I haven't heard from Sheila on any progress or anything on Otter River. I'm waiting for them to come to me. I know me and Scott threw out some ideas for Otter River with the recreational and the Veterans Park, include them together, update the playground and whatnot. But I really don't have.
Oops, thanks. Now, does your commission meeting, how does it work for you? You run the highway department, but there's also a cemetery and parks commission.
I'm in charge of the highway department, buildings and grounds, and cemeteries. The commissioners actually have a say over at the cemetery. I employ the staff and keep their daily workload scheduled. Anything that comes up far as a tombstone or expanding, any changes or rules and regulations is done all through the commissioners.
Okay, so they're really just focused on cemetery now, and then the parks and the grounds comes under the select board? Is that true?
I'm not sure if it's on the select board. I believe it is. But the recreational areas, all we do is pretty much maintain them. And we work with the park recreation and department on upgrades and changes, like Gilman and Waite, working with Scott. That is my responsibility, part of it over there. But
Okay.
so far, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to jump all over you. Basically, we're not going to be able to go anywhere with that discussion. It needs to be a bigger discussion with Scott and Joy from the rec committee and the select board. And then we talk about the veterans project and the Elm Street thing. So I'm just gonna continue running down thing, and I think that's something that we'll need to be focused on another meeting. Scott, would you agree with that? Or?
Recreation, I am no longer part of Recreation. I'm now Parks and Cemetery Commission.
Oh,
So I've rolled out of that position. So
okay.
pretty much Recreation is the way the Recreation Committee is set up. It's more of a scheduling, youth sports. Infrastructure falls under Bob and his group, and Parks and Cemetery Commission. I think they fall under that umbrella. I looked in the bylaws, it really doesn't say, but parks and cemeteries throughout the state, they handle all parks and cemeteries, infrastructure, so forth like that. So recreation, there have been two separate entities for so long that I've come off that board and joined Parks and Cemetery to be part of the bigger picture, the infrastructure, the historical monuments, the cemeteries, all that part of it. Recreation, we're trying to gear it towards youth and adult sports. That's what it was designed for, but they've fallen into more of the infrastructure and stuff they really shouldn't really have to do. That should be under Parks and Cemetery. So we're trying to segregate those two and try to bring them together somehow. So like when we can take their input, they can take our input, we can work together. But I think at the end of the day, it falls under, the DPW buildings and grounds, and then obviously the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, so like the Gilman project that we're gonna be talking about, that will still be, you'll be involved, but as a Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, we want to slide it that way because recreation shouldn't be dealing really with that infrastructure part of it and construction and bid processes. And I think that falls under more of Bob and the Parks Commission and the Cemetery Commissioners, you know what I mean? And recreation should be focused on recreation, the end of the day, end of the project. If there's a park, they decide what they want to do inside that park and scheduling and activities and so forth. And definitely the ideas, but it's been such a back and forth for years and years and years that really there's been no clear direction of who handles what. And me and Bob have had conversations, and we've sat with Carter and we kind of put it towards Bob, aimed it towards his department, because at the end of the day, he's Parks and Cemetery in buildings and grounds. So
He's got a big plate.
he does.
Mm.
Okay, so let me just keep running down because I want to ask you next. First, we're going to say the original Scout Hall project still has $11,140. So, I think that whole project really needs to be discussed as to where that's going. And that's probably, I know, Bob, you've had some say, or at least, I don't know what your role has been, but I know that like the building inspector has had some input.
Yes, Scouts Hall, it's, you might want to say that they're kind of regrouping. And it's going to be, the selectman is going to be in charge of the project. When all the renovations we've done so far, I was involved in the getting bids and prices and lining up the contractors to do the work of what has been done so far. I know that last $11,000, we were talking to use that for window casing, door casings, the paneling up from the floor up to the windowsills, and that would pretty much wrap that $11,000 up. But they just talked about it last night at the selectmen's meeting, so I know they are starting to move forward with it. So that should start taking back off shortly, I think.
Okay, and so if you have a chance to weigh in, we certainly want to know if there's a role that we should be playing. We certainly want to stay on top of it because ultimately we have to sign off on the final, we have to make sure that it's hunky-dory, which it sounds like that's a reasonable plan. And then we went through the whole process of getting another allocation of funds. I know there's always issues related to what's it going to be used for. We had an original article that talked about the community center role, the cable TV, located there, et cetera, et cetera. So, we'll just stay tuned on that one too.
Yeah, I'll pass along to make sure they keep you updated. Like I said, I'm waiting for the selectmen to come forward to see if they want to do a walkthrough to see where we're at, what's left. there is a proposed plan to finish it and wrap it up. But I'm just waiting, sitting back, waiting for me to step forward once they regroup.
Sounds like a good plan. Okay, so then, Scott, in terms of Gilman Waite, I know you've aware of the $399.72 balance, and you had talked about expending it for signage or something. And I know Kelly wants to close that project out. I mean, should we talk about just closing it out and not spending that 400 and then adding extra monies in what a future project would be? Or do you see an opportunity to use those monies?
I think we can wrap it up. I mean, 399's it's just a nuisance right now. So why don't you just close it out for the year and we'll start fresh with new allocations of money.
Okay, that helps with the bookkeeping and then,
Yes, yep.
It all goes back and it's available again. So
Right.
if you're good with that, then we'll entertain a motion to close out the Gilman Waite Park project, which has a balance of $399.72 and was instrumental in helping them, relocate the ball field, etc. Does anybody want to move that?
I'll make a motion that we approve Scott's suggestion that we close out the account and start
Okay,
over.
we have a motion to close out that account. Is there a second?
Awesome. Oh, go ahead.
Well,
Joy,
both
you
Joy
just-
and I second.
Second and third. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, unanimous, 6-0. We'll close that one out. And that leaves Baldwinville Elementary project, where Dennis has been participated in the whole evaluation process in terms of its potential reuse for community housing and or open space. That project has a balance of $7,950. I reached out to Carter and Adam to see if they wanted to close that out. Obviously, there's a bigger fish to fry coming forward down the pike as they talk about selling that building. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Carter indicated at this time he'd just as soon keep that open. So it seems reasonable to me. It's that we just keep it there unless anybody feels strongly. Okay, and then finally, next to finally, the Boynton Library still has $70,000 approved for their upgrade. They were looking to leverage the monies that were donated to do some, some upgrades at Boynton Public Library. That's still there and not going anywhere. And who knows? They may need more. They may change their scope. Don't know. We need to hear from the trustees, but we'll just leave that as B. And then just for everybody's edification. So last year our administrative budget, we had $15,000, as we allocate annually up the 5%. We expended $2,654.78, which left $12,345.22, which will then roll back into the general unbudgeted reserve. And we have a new administrative budget that starts with the new fiscal year that was voted in at the annual town meeting of a similar form. I had heard that they were seeking some administrative funds to close out the Stone Bridge evaluation, but that wasn't necessary. So we don't have any requests for that. So Kelly will just close that out as per the statute, that it closes out every year and reverts unspent. And then we will get a new budget. Carrie's internet just went down.
Mine did too. But we're back.
Oh, weird. Probably me talking too much to the internet. Okay, so that's the update on the finances.
Sean, just one quick question. Did we
Yeah.
not have an outstanding balance that we owed on that Stone Bridge project that the town was looking to get paid?
Yes. So they had that at $1,000 balance, and that's what I had put on the agenda as being something that we were going to talk about voting in. But Carter has indicated that because they have that new allocation of Stonebridge funds from going forward, the $35,000, they can just access those funds. So he said they're all set. They paid them.
Okay, all right.
But thank you. Okay, So the next thing I had listed was the discussion on the Veterans Park, discussion to move it. We're done with that. We're just gonna stay tuned because we want to move on to talk about Gilman Waite project. We've got Scott and Bob here. Scott has gotten some, getting a lot of pricing and has a lot of great plans. So we want to put together a proposal for the fall town meeting. Is that right, Scott? Do you want to take it away?
Yes, yeah, if you could. So me and Bob have been putting our heads together and trying to figure out, where Carter has charged Bob with, overseeing buildings and grounds and so forth. I stepped up to help Bob because COVID had kind of consumed the DPW and buildings and grounds. So I did a lot of background work for him and a lot of digging and stuff where he could just focus on what he needed to get done during COVID. So now that COVID's slowing down, I think he can take a little bit of a breath, and now he's got 1,000 roads to pave, so it's never going to end. But I'll continue to help him behind the scenes. But we have potentially 3 major projects at Gilman Waite that we'd like to see hit fall town meeting warrant if possible, and with some help from Open Space and Recreation. We've touched on them in the past, but I'll go back on them. One of them is the total irrigation project for Gilman Waite Fields. I have secured 3 bids, and I'm going to get with Bob and Adam and Carter and go through the 30B and start that process. But
remember, you don't go through that process till you have the funding in place.
Right. I have everything, but I just want to make sure everybody sees what we have and what we're doing and all that stuff. So, like I said, we've secured 3 bids, and we have 30,000 that we have put away from Recreation, the school department, and the Pajari account was all combined for a total of $30,000 towards the irrigation project when it was first rolled out 2 years ago. And obviously we want to roll it out as one major project instead of phase 1, phase 2. So the quotes that I have received are for total irrigation at Gilman Waite. So there's 3 quotes. Lowest came in at 74,000. Highest came in at 122,000 total project. We have 30,000 of that we would put forth, and then the rest we'd be looking for, obviously, Open Space and Recreation input on that, and if they could help us fund the rest of that project for the
Scott,
irrigation. Yep.
in the bid, is there anything requiring a beginning date and an ending date?
No, that would go through the contract process with 30B. With Adam, they would write up a contract when they decided on a vendor. If the funds were available, there would be a contract written stipulations that the contractor had to abide by. Start date,
Okay.
finish date, so forth.
So that will be eventually in the project so that we won't get it started and then get hung.
Right, that's why the town has done that, to put a safety net in on all vendors, all projects. I think there's a contract that has to be written for anything
Good.
that's for procurement now, so,
Good,
which is good because that way you don't get stuck halfway through a project.
that's
Once
right.
the money's approved, yes, it'll be in the invitation of bidding when it goes out. Start date and finish date and all that legal stuff. It goes out with every bidding process.
That's good.
So that's what I have on irrigation. So the fields up there, and Bob can attest that they're just at the point of no return right now. I mean, they're just with no water, and even on a wet summer, wet spring, there's no fertilizer, there's nothing to build on up there. And Bob just got approved for weed and seed up there, but we're not going to put a single thing down until we have the water, because you're just wasting money. So
That's what we've been
irrigation
doing.
is the first thing that has to go in up there
Wasting money.
to get those fields back in shape.
Okay, and then what's next?
And then the total fence replacement for Gilman Waite. Those fences up there are at a point now where they're rusted. Bob's crew's up there almost weekly after a windstorm or the winter hanging fence. It was a low grade fence that was put in years and years ago, bits and pieces, not the right sizes, not set right. So we really need to take a look at all the fencing up there. And the only fencing that could be salvaged is the playground and the softball field, the main softball field, and the new baseball diamond. That's the only fencing that's really up to par up there that's not falling down and rusted.
Okay, and you got a quote for like 35 grand or something? or-
35, yeah. I'm working on 2 more quotes right now.
Okay, and what's number 3?
Number 3 would be the bathrooms and concession stand completion in the existing building that's up there.
Okay,
There has been no bids put out on that yet because we have these other 2 projects going right now, but we wanted to approach you and see what your take was on funding, if you could fund something like that through the CPC and open space and recreation. If we, secured the bids and so forth, and I think it would be there would be 3 different contractors involved. There'd be a plumber, an electrician, and a general contractor to do those projects. So I don't know how that would work with CPC monies, if you would get a total bid project, get a bid on the project, and then you would allocate as each vendor completed. I'm not sure how that would work.
yeah, no,
you-
what we do, so what we need to do is to have a best estimate of what the cost is gonna be. And then we put together the article, we try to put in, an overage in there for a contingency. And
Mhm.
say we come up with, say it was $200,000, was that, then that becomes, and then the townspeople vote that in, and then it's just like it, then that is what an account is created by the accountant, and when the invoices come in and are approved, the town pays the vendor directly. So whether it's the electrician had, 20% of their job done and, or monthly billing or whatever, it becomes just like the pot of money. That's where she pays it out of, rather than the operating budget or whatever comes out of that CPA account. Now I've looked into that, and I'm confident that all of that stuff in supporting infrastructure for a recreational site is allowable.
Okay.
So the way we can look at it is developing, at a minimum, what I would suggest is that you roll a single proposal together for the fencing and the irrigation. We have that form that you have online, and you would indicate that the town, that your existing funds are $30,000 and you're seeking the balance from CPA funds. Right now, like I said, we have 53,000 in that open space reserve, but we have this undesignated balance of significantly more. So that is also available. So we don't, the only reason that I would say not roll all 3 into one is you may not be ready with that bathroom project at once. And then it may also be something where you have, if one part becomes controversial and people don't want it, they can kill the whole deal. But
Right.
not a controversial thing, I don't think. Do you have an estimate of what you might expect a bathroom concessions thing to cost?
I mean, I'm not a contractor, but it's 90% done up there. The building inspector was up there. Everything's up to code. It's, the toilets are sitting there, the plumbing's in, electrical's 90% roughed. So if I was to guess, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe $60,000, $70,000 to finish that project?
Yeah, I think you're pretty close, Scott, on that figure. Like you say, everything's roughed out, ready to go. It's a matter of putting up a few more walls, interior walls and sheetrock, and getting a wire inspector in to put in the finishes and the plumber as well. So I think you're right there in the ballpark between 60 and 70.
So if we look at, if you look at your high bid on the irrigation, 122,000, and say the fencing was 35, so they'd say that was approximately 150,000. Now you're talking about another 70, so there's 220,000, of which you might have 30. So you're looking at about $200,000 total request. And so the question to the committee becomes, do we want to advocate going forward with all of this at once? Do we want to talk about 2 different articles? What would you guys have for questions and or comments about, this project?
I think if you, like you were discussing, I think if you wanted to combine the fencing and the irrigation in one, that's fine, but the concession stand, we're gonna be getting 3 different prices, plumbing, electrical, and general contractor, which theoretically will combine it to one, but, and when it gets on the other side to get paid out, it'll be broken down. I think it'll be easier to manage on that route.
Good point.
I think we have to keep in mind the fact that also we have to think about Otter River if we are going to do anything with Veterans Park. So that's going to be another additional recreational type expense. That's a lot of money to spend at one place one time. I think if we could spread it out over a period of time, it might be better. But then again, I suppose that creates other problems. So
Yeah, I was gonna mention Otter River too, because that's, like you said, that's gonna be a big project up there. That's a total overhaul of that park. Just the
Right.
park itself is an overhaul, never mind. I mean, Veterans Park, that's not gonna be as big as Houghton
Right.
Park, and the drainage up there and the fields and the parking lot. That's gonna be a big project.
right, so to spend all of that money in just on Gilman Waite right away and not have enough to do Otter River, I don't know, that's gonna make it tight.
I understand what you're saying, Dennis. It's Gilman Waite. I mean, it's a beautiful place. And I don't know how many years that concession stand's been sitting in its condition unfinished. And it's, it's a brand new building and it's just not being used, and it's a shame. Although we also, like you say, I mean, the fencing for safety and the lawn, I would say the fence and the lawn would be probably a priority, but I just hope I can see the day that everything's finished up there and the youth can enjoy it.
Well,
I'd like to just say that they're both big significant projects, and to do partial at one and partial at the other, it kind of drags it out, and it seems like these projects just don't get completed. To me, it seems better to concentrate on one project to completion before we move on to another large project. Now, every year money is received for the CPA funds, and where the Veterans Park hasn't really been started, I feel that concentrating on Gilman Waite, finishing that one, then moving to the next big project.
Definitely. We've been too long at Gilman Waite, and there's been too much money wasted there because of the length of time. We need to finish one project before they start another.
well, Brad seems to think that makes too much sense.
There's certainly a lot of validity to your point that you're making. Are there any other sources of funding that could be approached for either one of these projects?
I think Adam had dabbled in, I think it's a playground grant that you get that Alan Mayo had done years and years ago, but I don't even know if that's still around. But I think we're going to nickel and dime ourselves to death if we start outsourcing and trying to get grants. And I don't know. I think funding should come from one spot, centrally located, instead of trying to get grants all over the place and money's coming in from distant. And I think we're going to lose track. And like I said, Veterans Park is just a thought right now. It's not really, there's nothing on paper. And Gilman Waite has been on paper since 2007, I believe.
Yeah.
At least that I go back
We've been
and
spending a fairly sizable amount of money up there for quite a number of years now, too. So
Yes, because they haven't done the right things. They've tried so hard to get water up there. And we had the reel and the well and all that, and it wasn't enough. Plus, the town had no money to pay anybody to stand there and do the watering. So consequently, we do have to have an irrigation system. That should have gone in first, but you look back and you find out your mistakes. So you've got to push forward.
there always seems to be one more thing that has to be done.
Always, yes.
always, yeah.
So I
But
don't
this-
know.
this will definitely take a huge chunk out of that park. I mean, we're near the end. I mean, the concession stand and bathroom has been a sore thumb for years and years and years. And, you know, I get questions every day. I get tournaments up there. Where's the bathrooms? Well, you have to use a porta potty. Well, they're right there. I said, I know they're right there, but they're not finished yet. The concession stand, I mean, those softball tournaments that we have, maybe 4 or 5 a year, generate a lot of money for the town. They shop locally. They spend all weekend here. It generates that meals tax and so forth in town that helps buy, you know, Bob's new trucks or fire department stuff. But it's a win-win situation. And there's really, you know, Templeton's population is growing. There's more houses going up now than I've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
People are
no.
moving here, you know what I mean? So I think a park is a definite draw to buying a house out this way. And Gilman Waite is absolutely, as you all know, is a beautiful place. And it's 30 acres that we can definitely finish off and move on to the next down the road. But I feel strongly that Gilman Waite is definitely got to get
I'm a little
finished.
leery about that finish off business, but what was the total figure that you said, John, that you thought it might come to?
I'm sorry, what?
What was the total figure you said all of this would come to?
200,000,
300,000, yeah,
200.
200.
Yeah, if they counting their 30,000.
Well,
Well,
it's becoming an embarrassment, having
not
that
gonna-
building there all these years and have it not finished. We need to get that finished and get the bathrooms in, especially for old people like me. And
Oh,
Dennis.
Well,
No, but the
that's
high
where
school-
I'm at.
The high school uses that property also. It's
yeah, I
in the deed.
know. Do they contribute in any way to? the
They did
funding?
contribute 10,000 towards the irrigation. That's part of the 30. That's a discussion that has to be taken further, you know, after, you know, they can get their budget settled and so forth. But that definitely has to be brought to the table also.
Is there a PTA or another external group that might be able to donate some money towards the concessions?
No, they don't have anything like that.
Yeah, we've looked, couple softball tournament guys offered, and it's a lot of nickel and dime stuff saying, yeah, we'll come up and help you. And, you know, a lot of people have offered, but it just never materializes. It never,
Right.
you know, it looks good on paper and it's a great conversation when you're up there having a hot dog watching a softball game, but that's where it ends.
That's right.
Well,
Well, my opinion is that we would go forward on all of it because as we've noted, it's been forever. We do get an allocation about equal to the amount of what we're looking to spend potentially on this whole project in a single year. So it's not like the well is gonna run dry. We've got other things, of course, to spend our money on, but that would be a signature piece to have that completed and available.
Right.
So I would recommend we at least put forward, develop 2 projects, one the combined fencing and irrigation, the other the bathroom and the concession. And see if we want to put it on the warrant, and you know, that's where I stand, but.
Well, and ultimately it's up to the townspeople,
Yep.
you know, to vote for that. In the end, they have the last say. So, but I think that, you know, it really would behoove us to finish that project.
Could we take a vote on it?
Well, what should we vote on? We want to, yeah, we can, it'd be great to know what everybody thinks.
Well, to appropriate enough money to finish off Gilman Waite before we start another project.
Yeah, the process needs to be, we actually have to have we can vote, we can show our intent that we
Yes.
support this and would love to see it go forward. I think that's a great idea. And then the actual project that needs to be more complete so that we can then give it to the selectmen to put on the warrant if we so do so. But are you making a motion then, Joy, that you'd like to take a canvas poll of the committee to see if we would support all or some of the Gilman project?
Yes. Yeah, I would like to just vote for all of us to complete this project. So I guess maybe you've got to go for a poll first.
And so you're saying irrigation, the fencing and the bathroom and concessions, support it fully with CPA money,
Yes, please.
okay?
Except for the 30,000 that they already have.
And leverage whatever monies we can. Certainly we're not, yeah, gonna walk away from that.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so Joy is moving that to give an indication of support going forward. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so further discussion on this?
No?
So basically what we're doing is we're voting to show the support of the committee or not to move forward with the whole kit and caboodle.
Right.
All right, so, if we
Where,
don't-
the final dollar figure then you're thinking is 200,000?
yes, I mean, that's just kind of what I'm basing upon the numbers that they.
Based on what we have now, yeah. Okay.
Does that seem reasonable, Scott, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, that high irrigation 122, that's the highest. I think the second lowest was 101, and then it went down to 74,000. That was the lowest bid.
Right, and that's why we want to estimate towards the higher end of our estimates
Right.
because it's easier than coming back again. We really want to nail it.
Are any of those bids local?
We tried and no, they're not. We couldn't get anybody local. These are all companies that deal with major golf courses. So they have, being 30 acres, it's a mile worth of pipe that they have to lay and 152 heads have to be installed. That's a big area to cover.
Okay.
So, and that's, the pump, the sensors, everything, all the electronics part of it. We really have to really make sure we go right with this because there's a lot of moving parts with irrigation. I'm sure Bob can speak to that there's a lot of things that have to happen with irrigation. And, once the irrigation gets in, then Bob and his crew can actually put something down on that grass and make it green and healthy again. And what's happening now is the compaction level is getting tighter and tighter up there, and those fields are going to be unplayable, and we'll have to
That's
shut
right.
that park down
Gonna
because
be another waste of money.
it's like concrete up there.
And so one thing we must emphasize is that when we put forward a capital project like this, obviously we got to go to capital planning as well, but in the quote, in the bid, in the request for bids, you want to ensure that any additional maintenance related issues that you can procure up front, because you're not going to be able to come back for more money because you need to replace sprinkler heads. So you
Right.
have replacement parts and stuff like that. I'm sure you guys have,
Yeah, everybody I've talked to, they offer a year. They offer a year warranty on everything, and then after a year, you have to purchase extra, whatever, you know what I mean? But if we can get that beforehand and maybe get an extended warranty on the parts or labor or
Well,
anything
if
like
you
that.
If you
But
buy 10% more heads than you need, then when
Right.
your one breaks, you don't have to go buy it with money you don't have. You have it
Right.
on the shelf.
Because
you're not gonna be able
152
to come back on a recurring cost basis for maintenance.
Right. Because 152 heads, something's going to get broken. You know what I mean? There's a lot of activity on those fields and mowers hitting them and things are going to break. It's a lot of moving parts. So,
So I agree with Dennis in the fact that this is a lot. These are, major issues, but we're gonna, whether we would put it forward as two projects or one, Bob also made a good comment about the management of the projects. So we have a motion and it's been seconded to indicate whether we have a thumbs up on the approach to do all three components or not. Is there any other discussion?
Just in regards to the maintenance issue that Scott just brought up, that funding for any maintenance of that nature won't be able to be coming from the CPC fund. Will there be any way of being able to keep up with the needs to maintain both the turf and the fencing and the irrigation system and the concession stand? Where will funding for that come from?
Dennis, say you did guys approve the 200,000 and our 30,000. When we do the irrigation, it's no different than me buying when I bought the new wood chipper. Okay, I want 2 or 3 sets of filters to get me through a year of changing the oils and hydraulics. Give me some extra knives, give me some chipping helmets, stuff like that. So you're starting off on a good foot. And if a head gets taken out, it's going to be up to the buildings and grounds to replace that head. If it comes to a control board, now and then you might have to hire a tech to come out to troubleshoot it. Then that'll come out of buildings and grounds budget. And the fencing, it should be good for years to come, but if something does happen, we will maintain the fencing or replace the post or whatever it may need.
Well, Scott, now that you've moved over to the cemetery and parks, that's something else we'll have to think about in your budget.
Yeah. Well, that's why, when I was on recreation, I did more, I got the recreation part of it, but, with that big study we had from Westfield State and, we really put recreation in a different direction, the way it should have been headed for years to be. And I mean, they shouldn't be handling infrastructure and so forth. That's more of buildings and grounds. And I always had an interest of that and improving our parks and our cemeteries and stuff like that. So I took the jump, a leap of faith, and we'll see how it goes.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess it's kind of unanimous. Let's go for it then.
All right, so we're going to do a poll. So we're basically asking if you will, as a committee person, support a project that as of right now is estimated around $200,000 to do the whole kit and caboodle. Brad?
Yes.
Yes. Dennis?
Yes.
Joy?
Yes,
Joanne?
Yes,
Harry?
Yes,
John? Yes. So it's unanimous, 6-0, that we're going to support going forward with this, and we all want to see it come to fruition. And we know the town doesn't have the ability to bite off a million pieces. So focusing on Gilman going forward, I think is the wise use of our resources.
good. Good.
So we'll need to develop the project to the point of, and then, it could be two separate projects, however, we can vote it as one article at town meeting. If it, it still has to come back to this committee when it's ready to go on the warrant, and then it goes to the selectmen to put it on and the townspeople to vote for. So,
Yeah, John, even if you vote the 200,000, say the concession stand was 75,000, the fencing was 35,000, and et cetera, we can break that down in a format just so you show that it totals the 200,000.
yeah,
But
and
the-
you have more flexibility with the budget if it's all in one lump managed project, and if one was over by 10%, one was under by 10%, if they're in the same umbrella
Right.
project, it's better than having to, we got to revote this and give this back,
Correct.
makes sense.
Well,
Right.
I think on the warrant, it should be broken out that way correctly. It'll say, you're looking to allocate $200,000 to the improvements of Gilman Waite, i.e. 120 for irrigation, 35 for fencing. So the townspeople can
Yes.
see, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's how it'll be voted, but if one thing is a little higher, one's a little lower, the bottom line is.
Right.
But
Just a
everybody-
barometer, so the public can see what their money's being spent on, a lump sum, and then what the breakdown is gonna be.
Right, and that'll show that you've done your due diligence, that these are not just coming out of your butt,
Right.
Okay, very good. Well, let's keep moving then. Are you guys good on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So now we'll talk about real money. So this is only an informational thing at this point, but as Dennis alluded to at our last meeting, the sale of the Baldwinville Elementary School has been approved, but it's contingent on a much larger project. So I sent out what I had gotten from Adam to everybody, which was the report, and I have the synopsis of this to share with you. Adam couldn't join us today. He indicated that the contractor whom they're looking to work with could have joined us, but I said, no, we're not ready for that. We just at least need to hear about this. Essentially, what the town is proposing they would sell Baldwinville Elementary to this private company for $500,000, who would then redevelop it and rehab the building to create 16 new affordable housing units. And 16 out of the existing structure and 34 out of new construction, for a total of 50 units up on that parcel up on Baldwinville Elementary School up on School Street. A total of 50 units, which would encompass approximately 53,000 square feet. So these are like 1,000 square foot units. Obviously, some are going to be different than others. And 70 parking spots. And in order to do that, that is a $20 million project as they've broken out. And they're looking to get $1.17 million of CPA money to support the affordable housing component. So they have, that's a big ask. They have a budget breakdown as to how they're going to get all their money to make the 20 million, and what is the town going to get out of it. You know, they're going to obviously get the building permit fees. They'll also get the hookups and the utility costs. And they did share in this that looking at comparable properties and market tax rates, we have estimated that our proposal will generate approximately $1,226 in annual property tax revenue per unit. So for 50 units, you know, that's like $60,000 plus. In addition, we estimate excise taxes will be approximately $191 per unit. And additional municipal revenue such as water and sewer fees are approximately $500 per unit. So they have a breakdown indicating that they believe that when combined, the two buildings, one is the rehab of the old school building, one is the, the new construction, will generate $100,000 per year to the town. So the town sells the property for $500,000. They're going to get $100,000 a year. And now we have better affordable housing for the community, which will be supportive of the industry, also a burden on the schools, potentially. And what about the $1.1 million that's coming out of CPA? Well, the town would recover that allegedly in 11 years. Plus they have that $500,000. The reason they're asking, I mean, it's an allowed use to support a community housing. These would be restricted to housing eligibility, and they have the data about what they're proposing, 30%, 60% of median income level and all that other stuff. So and then they're also talking some historic nature. Now they played into terms that, you know, it's in the Baldwinville Historic District, which I don't know where the boundaries of that is. Maybe Dennis, they talked about that in your meetings, but to claim that's a historic.
I think it's just inside.
Okay. So if it's in remember old Colonel Tucker, I think did that years ago, got that whole village district declared historic, and that makes it eligible for, you know, historic preservation uses of the funds, but they would have to comply with historic preservation. They also have the affordable component. So right now, you know, our affordable housing account has just over $205,000. So they'd be seeking another $900,000 or more from our general unbudgeted reserve. So obviously this is a big ask, and there's going to have to be a lot of community discussion. And I don't know what their time frame is. We're only now just hearing about it. They're only now just releasing this report, but we need to start being aware of it. And that's about Island. Dennis, do you have anything?
Just that the company has a period of time, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a matter of several months to check the building out and see if it would be something that they could convert over to what they intend to do. They will be looking for things that might prevent them from being able to fulfill this. If they do find something of that nature, they do have the option to withdraw from this without any penalties. I mean, things have changed a little bit since back in February and March when we were talking about this, and I don't know. I don't know I haven't heard anything more about it since then. I assume it's moving ahead, but that's all I really know.
So is the sale contingent upon the town voting the CPA money?
Oh, yes, that was also pointed out, the fact that this would have to be approved by CPC and the town meeting.
Before they write us the check for 500 grand?
Well, that would be a portion of the funding, so I assume they would have to do it that way. It would have to go to town meeting first. I
Well,
don't
yeah,
know.
they need
Did
to
Adam
come
have anything
forward.
more to say about that when he talked to you? No?
No, I don't know what's going on with it. I mean, other than that, they've got
It was made clear that
document.
the use of the CPC funds would have to be approved, both by us and by the town at town meeting.
Yeah, so that's still, in my opinion, a little iffy to think the townspeople would want to vote,
Yeah.
75% of your, funds to this
Where the
project to
funding,
bring more people to town.
where the funding is coming from so many different sources, I don't know how they pull this all together and get final approval for this. That's kind of, I think it's going to be kind of complex to do that. Is there some coming from us and some from housing funding and, there's a couple of other sources.
So if you review that document, you'll see that they've got all these heavy hitters from Boston that do these large scale projects. Nixon Peabody is a law firm that does a lot of affordable housing. They actually are supportive of the Community Preservation Coalition. And one of their lawyers is actually on that steering committee. So, in CHAPA, the Citizens Housing, whatever their acronym is involved. So they're used to swinging these big deals and pulling these together. It's a lot to imagine. And then if we were to use all of the CPA money and the town is going to take this 500,000, wouldn't some of those funds come back to CPA? Or they're just looking at it to balance the town's books.
And I also would question, will this qualify under the use of CPC funds for housing? I don't know.
Yeah, you got to believe that those lawyers know that, yeah, it's in support of affordable housing. To me, the historic nature of it as a hook is a little sketchy, but I mean, it's in the historic district, and you could get the historical commission to declare it of historical significance to the town. It's a big old brick schoolhouse.
As far as the historical aspect of it, they were going to try to maintain as much of the old building as they could, and as far as the windows design and the doors and things of that nature. But the new building that they're going to be putting up behind it, I'm not sure how they'll be able to do that and still meet, historical.
Well, we'd be creating affordable housing. That's really what it is. And I don't care whether they keep the building to look the same. I mean, it's just a big old brick schoolhouse. I went to school there, but.
Is this something that we could postpone for a few months before we, get some other things?
Right.
Yeah.
We're just trying to
Yeah.
we need to gather more information. I'm just curious, how much acreage is there?
Mm.
How much acreage is there for this
To
For
put
this
up
project.
have two buildings.
They have, the old railroad beds behind the school. That's what will be used. That's part of it.
Yeah, that's part of it.
But I don't know how
Okay.
many acres there are, 2 or 3.
I think it is a lot of construction to be putting on that small lot of land, but
Mm.
they seem to think they could do that.
And 70 parking spots, with a one-way street.
Yeah, I know, that's the other issue with parking and things of that nature. And if it's housing, you're gonna have to accommodate visitors and snow
Right.
disposal or
I mean,
storage.
the fact that they're using the school to do 16 units and they want to build 34 new,
That's a lot.
they're just really using that school as a hook. I mean, that represents a third of the units is rehabilitating that structure. But more important to them is they get to bang out. And there's a 10%, fee in there. That's $2 million profit in the proposal, which is not unheard of. And that's why companies are in business. But it's certainly going to need a lot of discussion and consideration.
Right.
I agree.
I think we should clean up some of our other projects, such as the fire station, and do all that before we dive into something new.
Yeah, so if a project comes to us, it's our responsibility to vet it and to vote on it, whether we want to put it on the warrant or not. It can't go on the warrant unless we put it on for CPA money.
Well, I suggest that we wait for a while.
Well, nothing's
we
happening.
need-
too quickly. Yeah,
Yeah, well, we're just talking about it. We still need to gather a lot more information before I think we can
Exactly,
get to
yeah.
that point.
I think this is going to be a hard sell at town meeting.
Yep.
I anticipate it not being an easy thing to do.
You might be right, Gary. I think
Yeah,
there's going to be some opposition to housing.
yeah.
Right.
And I think housing's important. I mean, couldn't we do something on a smaller scale, or, the housing trusts that you were talking about? This cleans us out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
pretty much.
Oh, definitely.
So there you go. We didn't even get a chance to kind of look more into that concept.
Well, this was the plan as it was presented. And I guess the selectmen decided to go with that rather than the other plan that was also submitted for a different type of facility.
Well, and the proponents, they want to put as much as they can legally put in there because that maximizes their profit. But, maybe a scoped down thing might be more palatable to the people. I mean, what is our housing deficit? Is this going to be senior housing, or is it going to be, 55 and over, or is it going to be just wide open? I don't know. I haven't read the whole report. So
Yeah,
we're at least, it's on our radar.
it was
Okay,
senior housing plus an additional senior housing and I forget what the other group was called, but affordable housing, I guess that's what it was. So, and I'm not sure what age group that includes either.
Yeah, so it's, we want to have affordable housing, and that's part of our responsibility. It's just that we're a small town, and that's why we're all kind of,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's a big number. So, we'll keep an open mind on it and keep discussing it and see where we can schedule to have the proponents come and speak to us at a meeting. The meetings are shared on YouTube, so people will have a chance to hear about it more going forward. And we'll just, obviously it takes us a long time to do 10.
I think at this point it's just more of an informational type of presentation.
Right.
right.
Okay, so those are the items that we had on the agenda. The other items being old business and anything new that anybody wanted to bring up.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yeah.
may. You still need my presence, or may
No,
I be?
Thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate you working overtime for us.
Oh, no problem. I want to thank the board for the nice decision they made tonight, and then enjoy your summer night, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks.
Good night.
7:30.
All right.
Okay, so any other business to bring up, because we're gonna lose Brad too.
Oh,
You want me to, on my part with Bob, do you want me to
Yeah. You can,
get the rest of the
thank you, Brad.
quotes and so forth, or how do you want me to get you bids or paperwork or?
Well, what you need to do is develop the project. Brad had to take off. He's gonna, we kept him later. He has to go pick somebody up, but.
Yeah.
So we need the formal process. We have on the webpage that archaic, application. It says we need 10 copies. We don't, but that kind of maps it out. And so, when the more bids you have, the better. The more information you have on costs, the better, because that better defines what it is. But it's not valid until you have to go out for bid when you have the money, and the prices could change. So
Right.
use that as an estimate. So if you come up with solid estimates and a good rationale, you don't need 3 quotes. You'll need 3 quotes when you go out to bid at more than 25 grand or whatever. But
Right,
to get an estimate. So, break it down. What do you need for the irrigation? What the fencing and the irrigation, I guess you've already done. It's the bathroom and the concession.
okay,
Yeah. So, and I know that's not an easy estimate. So you want to just be prudent. And that's why we learned to try to put a little contingency in there when we vote the money, because then you don't have to go back and ask for more.
right, definitely. Okay. All right, I just want to know the next process because like I said, I want to make sure all our ducks are in a row before we move forward, so.
Yeah, and so basically the fall town meeting, whenever that's gonna be, is a good time for that. And then if we vote it in, then you'll have over the winter to get it all lined up and ready to rock and roll. And obviously inside work can be done all winter.
That's what I'm thinking. The inside work can be done all winter and the outside can wait till the break of spring. So,
Although even now, you know, who knows what winter's gonna be like anyway. So,
right.
yeah, that's great.
That's true. Well, I just want to thank you all. That was very helpful, and you know, I appreciate everything you've done for us, and working with you guys is amazing to work with. And you know, we all have the same vision to get things done and beautify what we have. We live here, and you know, we have a lot to offer, and we just got to move forward. And I think we're all heading in the right direction. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for-
you too.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay, so did anybody have any old business to bring up? Any new business?
Is there anything being done about the fire station?
Not at the present time. We have not heard anything.
Oh. Okay. I'll have to get on him.
Yeah. It's a crazy time too. Everybody is, you know.
Yes.
It is.
So I'm just glad that you guys, everybody was able to join us. Thank you, Joanne, for the, you know, inviting Joy over that.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
You know, we could all meet in one room, but we can't meet in a public space, you know?
Yeah, right.
And we should thank Sean and Steve for all their great work. This town wouldn't run without them anymore. All this, you know, internet stuff. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a
So
motion, we
moved.
adjourn.
Okay,
I second
motion
it.
made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right.